4 ways emotions and dysregulation get trapped in our body, and this can trigger chronic pain and chronic illness. Emotions can include anger, sadness, fear, shame, guilt, love, joy, and dysregulation is fight, flight, fawn, freeze, and shutdown. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain the 4 main ways that I see difficult emotions or dysregulation being trapped in the body. If we don't experience emotions or dysregulation, and when I say experience, I mean in the body. You don't think you're sad, you feel sad. Sadness is made up of a set of sensations. For me, it's hollowness, emptiness in my chest, and a pit in my stomach. But that's what sadness is. Any emotion or dysregulation, it's not the thought, it's the feeling inside. And if we can't experience that feeling, feel safe with it in our body, be able to express it outwardly, and be able to release it and move through it, what happens is it doesn't just go nowhere. It remains trapped in our body. In somatic experiencing, other somatic approaches, they talk about this. They talk about how emotions and dysregulation, they get trapped inside. And we need to experience them, feel safe with them, express them, and release them. Now, I'm going to discuss the 4 main ways that I see emotions and dysregulation getting trapped inside. We're going to dive into this list. And at the end of this video, I'm going to explain how that can result in chronic pain and chronic illness. So let's dive into these 4 main ways. Number 1, alexithymia. It's quite a big term, isn't it? It's kind of fun saying alexithymia. Now, alexithymia, this is a defense response to childhood adversity or adverse situations we faced in the past or trauma. It is a defense response that develops. No one's in control of it. It just develops from earlier in life, often when we've faced overwhelming situations that we haven't been able to handle. Now, alexithymia, what it is people have a real cognitive focus. They're very much in their head. They're thinking all the time. They're really lost in their thoughts, and they're focused on the external world. I explain it really simply. Alexithymia, people live neck up. They never dive into sensations of emotions or dysregulation. And to be honest, at an extreme end, because it is a spectrum, some people are more extreme in alexithymia, some people are more mild. On the extreme end, when I've worked with people, they have no awareness. I'll ask them, how does sadness feel in their body? And they have no idea. They've never even thought about it. They've never connected that sadness makes their body feel a certain way. And so some people have no awareness. Other people, it's a bit more mild, this alexithymia, where they may not have awareness of more mild to moderate emotions, but as things get more extreme, they become really aware, such as things like fear or anxiety. They know what that feels like at the extreme ends, but until it crosses that threshold, they have very little awareness. Now, one thing I want to note about alexithymia is this is unconscious. It's not like people are feeling sadness, notice it, and choose to avoid it. We're going to talk about avoidance later on this list, but that's not what's happening. It's this unconscious thing that's taking place. They're not consciously avoiding, they're unconsciously avoiding. They just have very little or no awareness of emotions or dysregulation. Now, when I'm working with people one-on-one, it takes a lot of time to reverse this. It is possible, but people need to start to realize when they cognitively know that they're stressed, checking in with the body, dropping in and describing, what does it feel like in my body right now? Consciously, I know I'm feeling stressed. What does that actually feel like in my body? Same with when you're feeling sad. If they know something sad's taking place in their environment, they cognitively know they're feeling sad. Now it's checking in with the body. What does sadness feel like? They're kind of reconnecting mind and body to understand that emotions, dysregulation, they feel a certain way. With alexithymia, we need to start there. People need to practice dropping in, describing consistently throughout their day to reconnect mind and body. And Only then, after they know what it feels like, can they start to fully more experience it and release it and move through it. But we got to start there. Alexithymia, for myself, I felt some element of this well over a decade ago, where I just wasn't aware of my emotions until they got really extreme. And there's a lot of benefit to reversing alexithymia because it prevents us from these emotions staying trapped inside. Number 2, invalidating emotions. Ooh, this is a really common one. Perhaps you often tell yourself, get over it, push through, move on. Other people don't feel this way. You shouldn't feel this way. I did this a lot. I remember when I moved into the house that we live in, I was feeling really anxious. And the things that I was telling myself is you shouldn't feel anxious. This is a normal part of life. Other people do this. They're fine. You should be fine. There's this invalidating of emotions. You are never going to allow yourself to drop in and experience your emotions if you're telling yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. It is a natural way that we just click our emotions off and run away from them. Validating our emotions is essential. It tells us that what we feel inside makes sense. Other people, doesn't matter what you think, other people in similar situations to you have felt just the way you felt. And we need to understand that it makes sense, that it's normal to feel emotions. The full spectrum of emotions and dysregulation and nervous system states, they're normal to experience as human beings. And so the starting place when someone's invalidating their emotions is understanding that they make sense so that they allow themselves to drop in their body and experience them. We live in a culture that naturally invalidates emotions. This capitalistic culture, it tells us to focus on the cognitive, to produce, to ignore our emotional states, and always be calm and collected. But that's not how we're built as human beings. Now, this is amplified even further if you came from a home with parents or caregivers who naturally always invalidated you. They told you, don't feel this way. You shouldn't feel this way. Get over it. Move on. Like us as adults invalidating our emotions, it didn't just happen by chance. It's because of our culture and because of our upbringing that resulted in it. And so, as I've said, we need to start to validate our emotions. We allow ourselves to actually start to feel them. Number 3, viewing emotions and dysregulation as dangerous. This concept I took from a therapy model called pain reprocessing therapy that I often use in my practice. And it helps us understand that a lot of us view certain emotions or dysregulation as potentially threatening and dangerous. Now, some of us view all emotions and dysregulation as dangerous. Other ones have certain emotional states that they view as more dangerous. For example, I don't know what my parents did right, but sadness, I never viewed as dangerous. Even as a child, I felt really safe dropping into sadness. I felt safe being with it. I knew it would pass. I knew I'd move through it. Things like fear and anger or fight and flight energy, I really viewed as threatening. It felt really scary to me. And when we view emotions or certain nervous system states as dangerous, you're never going to let yourself fully experience it. We naturally try to avoid, because if you view something as actually threatening, you're never going to let yourself feel it. Now, here's the thing about emotions and dysregulation. Yes, a lot of them can feel unpleasant. I totally get that. Fear, anger, even though I've made a lot of progress over the years, it felt really unpleasant. But all emotions and dysregulation, it's actually safe. They are just sensations in your body. Yes, they're unpleasant, but they're actually safe for us to experience. And as we slowly work our way to feeling them and moving through them, we can teach our brain and nervous system more and more that they're actually safe. Using somatic work, I've been able to drop into fear and anger enough that my brain now understands, hey, I'm actually safe with this. Yes, it's unpleasant. I'd rather not feel this way, but I'm safe to be with it. And if I attend to it somatically, I can release it and move through it. We need to teach our brain that all emotions and dysregulation is actually safe. At the end of this video, I'll talk about a previous video that I did on how you can actually feel and release emotions and dysregulation. I have a whole one-on-one guide on this channel that could help you a lot in this way. But we need to teach our brain and nervous system that these sensations are actually safe for us to feel. If we keep viewing them as dangerous, we're never going to allow ourselves to drop into them, express them, and release them. And lastly, number 4, avoidance. Avoidance. As human beings, we love avoidance. This makes sense. This is how we're built. We're built, our brain and nervous system, to approach and move towards what feels pleasant and run away and avoid what feels unpleasant. So it makes sense that naturally as human beings, when we feel unpleasant emotions, unpleasant dysregulation, that we naturally avoid. And in our society, we have so many ways to avoid our emotions. And too much avoidance, we're never going to actually allow ourselves to experience and release things. And they're just going to stay trapped inside. I've worked with so many people that for decades, they've just avoided anything that felt unpleasant, and it just all remains stored there. It all remains unprocessed and not moved through. And so avoidance, this can look lots of different ways. At the extreme end, it could be things like drug or alcohol use. A lot of people use substances to avoid their emotions or dysregulation. I've seen people use shopping. It can be other things such as work. Workaholics. This is a really common thing. People are working to avoid their emotional state. I've done this in the past. I did this with school and with work, and I have to be careful in this area. But these are a lot of behavioral avoidance behaviors. Behavioral avoidance. What do you do to avoid your emotions? Doom scrolling on your phone. Just scrolling on Instagram for hours. Opening your phone every 2 minutes and scrolling. It's often because people are avoiding unpleasant sensations inside. A really silly one that I always share with people is I was an angry cleaner. So well over a decade ago, I wasn't aware of it at first, but what I would do is if I got angry, I cleaned my house. I cleaned my house for 3 hours. Now, quite useful. I got a clean house, but I never moved through anger. I'd feel just as irritable and frustrated by the end of it as to begin with. As opposed to if I just allowed myself to drop into my body and feel anger for 10 minutes, I would have probably moved through it much quicker. So angry cleaning. I've seen this be a common way that people coping. They're angry cleaners, or they're cleaning to avoid their emotional state. Now we also have cognitive avoidance. This is things like think about something else. Don't think of certain memories. Toxic positive thoughts. I'm all for positive thinking, don't get me wrong, but it becomes toxically positive when people are ignoring their emotions or dysregulation and just pretending everything's completely okay. That's not actually going to be healthy for you long term. And as I said, it's going to trigger chronic pain, chronic illness for people. There's other things that I see where people get obsessive, but they get obsessive about a safe topic. So instead of getting obsessive about what's actually going on emotionally in their life, they obsess about something else random in their life, like some small thing at work that's bugging them. And so we have these cognitive defenses too, these cognitive avoidances that take place. Now, this section, number 4 on ways emotions, dysregulation get trapped in your body, this avoidance, this really comes from Dr. Schubiner and Dr. Lumley, their approach, which I use quite a bit on in my actual practice. But watch out for avoidance, because if avoidance becomes too extreme, you are never going to feel things and release them. They're just going to stay trapped inside. So these are these 4 ways that emotions or dysregulation can get trapped in your body. And as you can see, these 4 ways, they're just different forms of resistance. Now, with my work with chronic pain, chronic illness, this really relates. A lot of people have had the experience that when they feel stressed or difficult emotions, that their pain or physical symptoms will get worse. So people assume they get the equation wrong. They think difficult emotions, dysregulation equals pain or symptoms. That equation is not correct. It is when you have difficult emotions and you add resistance that you're going to get chronic pain or chronic symptoms. So whether you have chronic pain or symptoms, or whether you just feel constantly dysregulated, you're going to really benefit from being able to experience emotions, dysregulation inside, move through it, release it, and express it openly. It's essential for our health and well-being that we're able to learn to do that. So how resisting emotions triggers pain and symptoms. So first, you have important emotions: love, joy, appropriate guilt, sadness, fear, anger, disgust. And then resistance occurs, as we've talked about. This lack of awareness with alexithymia, invalidation, viewing them as unsafe, using defenses, and avoidance behaviors. Now, as you resist these important emotions that you're feeling, what's going to take place is nervous system dysregulation increases. Fight, flight, freeze, shutdown. This is how emotions and dysregulation really connected. And the more dysregulated you get, the more your brain feels in danger, and then it produces pain and symptoms. And the unfortunate feedback loop that happens here is as pain and symptoms increase, you have more difficult emotions. So you can see how resisting emotions actually triggers chronic pain and chronic symptoms. Now, this slide explains how feeling and releasing emotions can reduce chronic pain and chronic symptoms. So you start off by identifying and exploring emotions somatically. You respond with validation, curiosity, compassion, and helpful behaviors. This increases safety. We call this the ventral vagal system in your nervous system. The ventral vagal system is where you feel safe, calm, connected, socially engaged, at ease. And so as you respond to your emotions with this validation, curiosity, compassion, as you feel them, a sense of safety, a sense of connection starts to occur within. This helps your brain feel less in danger, and pain and symptoms start to reduce. And this cycle can go on and on. So you can see how actually feeling and experiencing emotions can have a real effect on your pain and physical symptoms. Now, as I promised, I recently did a video on how you can actually feel and release emotions, dysregulation. I lay out a whole process in this video, so I'll put that link down below. I really suggest, if you related to one of these 4 ways of resisting emotions or dysregulation, that you move to this video now of how you actually feel and release them. So thank you everyone for watching, and I'll talk to you all soon.